You are listening to Sean Harrison on Amp Life Talk Radio, a place for amputees and those dealing with limb loss. The views expressed on the show by the host, co-hosts, and guests are their own. Always seek medical advice from a licensed medical professional.
Well, hello. Hey, man, YouTube, Facebook, we have you all here. Happy New Year, everybody. And I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas. And I hope you all had, I hope you got what you wanted for Christmas. I hope everyone was able to get all the goodies and treats that they were trying to get. I have a wonderful new setup here in my wonderful studio. So I wanted to go a little bit earlier tonight just because I need to set up some things because everything is basically just here. I mean, I got a new mic stand that I can move and not make a lot of noise. But what I needed to do was make sure everything is dialed in. Everything's where I need it at because I'm running two cameras. So we haven't actually started the show. So those of you that are on Facebook and you're over there looking, you're like, man, what is Sean doing? I'm making sure that everything's good. So you're getting a different perspective on Facebook. And the reason I have this set up like this, so I want to make sure I explain some things right off the bat before we really get going. I wanted to make sure everybody had an opportunity to, on this first, very, very, very first episode, I wanted to make sure I was able to explain all these things that are out here. And as I'm trying to get everything set up and positioned where I need them, because typically I don't do dry runs before I start the show. I just start my show. So, and I have two screens. I have a laptop now and I have my big computer in front of me. What I wanted to do was come on a little bit early and talk about some of the new changes that you can expect for the new year. One, the different setup. People are going to see me on Facebook and people are going to see me on YouTube. So I'm running two platforms, two video platforms. Plus, you can listen to the show live on Spreaker. So if you want just audio only, go to Spreaker.com and just type in Amp Life Talk Radio and you'll find the show there. If you would like to see the grill, meaning you want to see me in my little small studio here where I do all my shows at, basically all you would have to do is go to my YouTube channel, which is the same thing, Amp Life Talk Radio, and subscribe. You'll get notifications when I'm about to go live on the show, and then you can sit there and look at the live videos that I do there. If you happen to be over here on Facebook, hello, Clarence, you can actually communicate with me on Facebook. You can actually communicate with me on YouTube. So that's going to be something that I'm going to be doing a little bit different this year. I'm actually going to try and talk with you guys and communicate with you a little bit more because on both of these platforms, I'm able to chat and answer questions. And what I want to do is I really want to be able to do that with you if I can answer your questions. We'll see if you don't throw like too hard of a question at me. I would like to open some dialect when we're actually doing the shows here. So as you can see, if you're looking at me live on either one of these platforms, you see me typing over on YouTube. So basically just giving everybody a happy New Year's. And we're early. So I like getting in early, especially when it's the first show of a season, to kind of explain some of the new changes that you're going to be seeing and some of the things that have changed. Because one of the things I found was people on Facebook miss me over there. People on YouTube are slowly trickling over there. So I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. There's not always going to be a Facebook show. So please understand that. So I'm going to try and push all of my people on Facebook over to the YouTube channel because this is where I'm primarily going to be doing a lot of the shows at and a lot of the video for the show and all the other different things we're going to be doing. We have people lined up for live interviews on the show. That's slowly filling up, and I'm very excited about that. And I'm thankful for everybody that reached back out to me that accepted my invites to be on the show. And I hope that all of you will tune in. The other new thing that I'm doing is, as you will notice, the shows are only 30 minutes now. I'm no longer doing the 1 hour shows. I just found that those shows were too long for people to try and stay focused. So uh, I'm doing 30-minute shows. So typically, what you're going to see in a 30-minute show, first 15 minutes, we're going to talk. We're going to do a little break in the middle, and then we're going to close out the last 15 minutes. So typically, I'm going to play some type of show tune. Nothing long. It's going to be about 30 or 40 seconds, just long enough for me to get some water and wet my whistle and keep pushing forward with the show. So nothing long and drawn out to torture you guys. So please bear with all the new changes. As the year goes, I think you'll all kind of get accustomed to what the new changes are, and we'll kind of settle in here. Okay. So do realize you can't see me over on Facebook. I have a laptop that I'm going to try and answer some of the questions on and talk to you guys. So, um, and I'm over on YouTube. So I'm giving you both the best of both worlds. That's what I'm trying to do. So you're getting the double play, basically. I would appreciate everybody when you tune into the show, share it. Uh, I am trying to build this into something bigger this year. This is the year for us to grow this platform and to grow the show. But I can't do a lot of growing unless you share the show. The show is for you. Please share the show. Also, those of you that have been with me from day one, you do know that we have Amp Nation, the magazine. What I'm going to be doing with Amp Nation, the magazine, is show notes. Everybody's been hitting me about those. I'm actually going to put some of the show notes into the magazine. Tonight's show will be in the magazine. I'll kind of let you know which episode is going to have show notes featured in the publication. So if you really like the show and I think it's going to be a show worth doing show notes on, I'll put those in the magazine. Remember, the magazine is a monthly publication, so there might be one or two shows that are in there, and you'll be able to catch those show notes typically at the back of the magazine, and they will clearly say show notes. Um, what are some other new things that are coming up? We are looking like we're getting some people interested in doing some being sponsors. I'm always excited about that. So if you want to be a sponsor of the show or a sponsor in the magazine, please do reach out to me over on Facebook. You can shoot me a message and then I'll send you my emails and get you involved with the magazine. I've joined quite a few support groups, and people have reached out to me, and I really like supporting you guys out there in your endeavors. So if I can help you, please do reach out to me. We are now coming up on our show time to get this started. So why don't I close out? I think I gave you enough information about what some of the new changes are and what we're doing. So hopefully, if you have any other questions about that kind of stuff, please do reach out to me. And if for some reason, because I'm always looking at these two mics here, if for some weird reason you do find me on YouTube, and I always look at my show afterwards. If for some weird reason the sound does not work on YouTube, which I think it is, if the sound does not work, I always go back and I try and enhance it and put everything back in. So just bear with me as we got new microphones, we got new setups. We're running two different video platforms. First show is going to have a few little hiccups, but I think we all have it worked out. So, guys, I love you guys. I want to say that before I start this show. Something that I see a lot, and we're going to be doing this a lot this year. I'm going to be taking some of the topics that I see you guys talking about in the support groups. So when I see you talking on social media in these support groups, if I see a topic that I really want to address, I'm going to pull those over here into the talk show and we're going to talk about them. Because I think here's one of the tough things about amputee support group pages on Facebook. there's a lot of misinformation on those. Not that I'm knocking anybody's page or bashing your page, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. There's a lot of misinformation that circulates in some of these pages. What I try to do is I try to make sure we're always getting good information. We're always getting correct informations because there's nothing more important than getting correct information. So that's a big thing with me, and that's what I try to do all the time. So if I'm bringing up a topic or if I respond to one of your comments, I'm not knocking you, I'm not bashing you. It's just that I want to make sure people are getting good information. It's pretty much it. Hey, Mike, uh, glad you could join the show. See you over on Facebook. So tonight, this topic came up because I was browsing and looking at what you guys were talking about in your little chat sessions, and I saw this topic. Somebody was talking about liners being cut, and when I saw that, I could not help myself but say that is a pet peeve with me. I have to be very, very honest with you. That is a big pet peeve with me. So before I start the show here, I want to make sure I say to you, if you're on YouTube and you shoot me a message, I'm pulling that screen down so I can read my notes. So bear with me if I don't respond to you right away, but I am actually going to be moving my screens around here so that I can see my show notes, so I can actually get the show started. So if you find that you're in that situation and those types of things are happening, um, I hope that you will understand. I'm not ignoring you. Who else we got over here? Is that Boomer? Hey guys, if you're on Facebook and you're looking at the show, always remember on Facebook or YouTube, um, always give a shout out and say where you're from. Because if I do look over here, uh, see, Michael gets it. He lets us know he's from Modesto, California. So if you do pop up on one of my screens, you're in the chat session and you're going to stop in and say hi or leave me a comment. Always say where you're from because that helps everybody know where everybody's from. Sorry, I have to drink water. I'm a noisy host, man. I keep it real in here. I don't do like a lot of these guys. I see some of the YouTube shows and everybody's trying to keep everything perfect and clean and hi Tamara, and they're trying to make sure their stuff is all perfect. I'm not that guy, so I'm gonna let you know right now. Facebook or YouTube, I'm not that dude. So what you see is what you get. So I believe in live radio, and podcasting is something that is allowing me to be able to do that. And to be honest with you, I just don't have the time to go back and pretty boy up my show. It's real. It's coming at you, man. So what you see is what you get. So the topic of cutting liners, we wanted to talk about that tonight because it is a huge pet peeve of mine, because I see so many people talking. Well, first, I see so many people cutting their liners. And for someone who works in this industry, when I see that, man, it drives me nuts. I'm going to be honest with you. It drives me nuts to see that, because someone who uses a prosthetic device and knowing the importance of keeping your liners long, when I see patients doing it, it just drives me nuts, because a lot of the problems that you're going to experience, or when I see people talking about stuff, some of the problems that you're experiencing are because you cut your liner. So, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to talk about the pros and cons of cutting liners. So, I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong. I'm not here to tell you bad, shame on you. It's not my job. What my job is to give you information and let you make your decision. I think that's the best way to look at this, and that's the best way to handle this. So, when we talk about season 4, man, can you believe we're in season 4 already? Wow. Season 4, episode 1, first show of the year, cutting liners, the pros and cons. When I thought about this and I thought about how I was going to present this show to you, I was sitting here just thinking to myself, how will I talk to people about something like this? It's a tough topic. Hey, Mark, how you doing? My buddy Mark, I love this guy. He's from Hayward in the house. So when we talk about something like this, so I don't rub people the wrong way, It's very, very simple. Let's talk about the function of liners. And we're going to talk about not only the function of liners, um, sockets. So I think when we understand the purpose and what liners have to do, we'll kind of get a better understanding of if we cut them, what can go wrong. Okay. So I'm not telling you yay or nay not to cut your liner. And I tell you right now, I know there's some practitioners that are going to listen to this show, and man, they're going to be like, "Hey, he was bashing us, man. He was talking smack." I'm not talking smack. I'm just giving you my perspective. That's another thing I need to touch on. Some of you know that I work in this industry. So, what I say on my show is my opinion. I don't speak for my company. I don't speak for a product manufacturer. This is me. So don't look at me if you're a practitioner out there and you work for my company. Don't go, oh man, Sean's saying some bad stuff. This is my show. I'm handling my show. Um, and I just want to make sure that's very clear because I don't want there to be any misunderstandings of who I am, what I do. Yes, I work in the industry. I work for a wonderful company. I would never bash my company, but I do have opinions and I do have a talk show. And I am going to be straightforward and honest as much as I can with certain issues. They may not sit well with people in the medical industry, medical profession. I will try not to step on toes because it is a delicate process of doing what I do. And I am not here to offend or make anyone mad about what I say. But the truth is the truth. So that's that, man. I just wanted to get that out there because that's a fine line that I have to ride sometimes. And I know everyone listens to my show. I don't hide it. So people from my company can listen, people from other companies can listen, people from hospitals can listen. And if you hear something on here that doesn't sit well with you because I'm spewing facts, well, I guess I'll just say I'm sorry. But if it's truth, uh, the truth is going to be the truth. So now, with that being said, we're back to the topic of cutting liners, the pros and cons. First, what are liners? So we need to understand liners play a very important role in the comfort and health for prosthetic leg users. They fit over your residual limb and they go between your limb and your socket. The socket is the shell that you put your leg in, your residual limb in, that encases your limb, and it connects you to your prosthesis. If you use either a vacuum or a suction system, suspension system, you'll need, and also you're going to need a sleeve that seals you in. So there's plenty of companies out there that make products. I don't really want to endorse any of them because one, they're not paying me, but I do like a certain company because they do make some really good products, but I'm not going to say their name on air because I don't want anybody to think I'm playing favorites, but they know who they are. And if you want to sponsor my show, I'd be more than happy to talk more about your products. But there's various companies out there that make these devices, and you have to kind of like know what you're wanting. What's your deal? So I would always work with your practitioner to figure out the best fitting liners for you. Liners. The liner is a uh, protective cover made of a flexible cushioning material. Typically, we're going to go over those like silicone and polyurethane and all that kind of stuff. We're going to get into that, but they're typically made of a cushioning material. Worn over your residual limb, it reduces movement. A lot of people complain about that sometimes, and chafing between the skin and the socket. Liners are designed with a very specific characteristics to work with different suspension systems. Okay, pin systems, suction systems. You know, you know what I'm talking about. Um, Selecting the right liner helps ensure that your prosthesis will fit well, and it's going to make sure it's comfortable to wear. Um, it's going to be the type of liner you select or wear. It's going to be something that helps you meet the wide range of needs, whether you're a walker, you're a runner, you just want to go fishing, whatever you might want to do. Standard models are available in three primary materials. As we kind of talked about, they're made from different materials: silicone. What is it? I think one is polyurethane, and I know I'm going to slaughter this last one. Copolymer, I think that's what it's called. So each one of these materials functions differently. We're going to say that. So typically, a silicone liner provides a high stability and good adhesiveness in uh, your limb, and typically has a lot of soft tissue for the people that have that soft tissue. Like, my limb is skinny. I got nothing hanging off my leg. But people that have a very meaty, tissuey limb, these liners typically work good for them. It definitely performs best with a shuttle lock, or we'll say just a pin system. Um, that's a fancy name, the shuttle lock suspension. Just think of a pin system. Then when you talk about polyurethane, these have a very unique ability to flow away from high pressure, meaning you ever been more in your limb, and your practitioner tells you there's a pressure sore or a pressure spot or a hot spot. So the polyurethane, they tend to work best for that. That means the pressure in your socket is well distributed. So these things are good for that type of thing. Okay. I'm not going to get too deep into these because, one, I am not a practitioner, but just basic education. So that's what we're trying to learn tonight, because I think in order for us to know why we shouldn't cut liners, we need to know about liners and their functions and the roles that they play, what that thing has to do. Okay. We really have to understand that. Um, uh, Copolymer, okay, that one is soft, cushiony, and highly elastic. So a very elastic liner, which is good for preventing low protection of low activity for many types of residual limbs. So if you're a low activity type person, that might work good for you. Um, those are our three types. Okay. We kind of got a gist of what the liner does. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. The liner acts as sort of, when you really think about it, because the liner is an intimate fit. It goes right up against your skin, and your socket goes on next, which is on the outside of your liner. So your liner, in a way, acts as sort of a second skin between the movable, soft tissue of the residual limb uh, and the socket, the hard shell, which is your socket, which your legs goes in. This reduces movement and friction between the skin and prosthetic socket. So you have a protection barrier, basically. Therefore, it reduces the forces in the socket described um, um, by your practitioner. They'll always tell you, like, you're going to be under shear forces. We're going to get into those forces a little bit, because I think it's really important for you to understand the types of forces that are upon your residual limb. The liner connects your residual limb to the prosthesis. So understand that. Your liner, I don't want to say that again. Your liner connects your limb to the prosthesis, the prosthetic device, cushioning the sensitive skin on the residual limb, and thereby, okay, alleviating problems such as pressure points. So the liner has a really important job when you start thinking about what it does. The function, the functions of the liner. Selecting the right liner is essential in order for you to ensure the prosthetic fits well. That's what your practitioner does. And he wants to make sure comfort is there too when you're wearing it. If you're fortunate enough to be wearing a thing called a sleeve on the outside, you know that that is another important component of your prosthetic device. Also, they connect you to your prosthesis. These two are very important and should not be compromised in any way. We're going to talk about what I mean when I say compromised, because most of you understand a sleeve Once it gets a hole in it, it loses its function. It loses its ability to function and perform the functions that it was meant for. You feel me? You hear what I'm saying? If you get a hole in your sleeve, that sleeve loses the ability to do what it was meant to do. So I want to say that. Now, when we talk about caring for our sleeves and our liners, there's things that we should be doing, cleaning them. We should be looking after them, making sure they don't have holes in them. The biggest thing I see a lot of amputees do, which is another pet peeve, the liner is meant to be rolled on. And you'll see a lot of amputees put them on, and then at a certain point, they'll start to pull it. And they're pulling it. And what happens is you're stretching it. And this can possibly damage the liner, especially if you have fingernails. So pulling a liner on is not the way to put it on. Let's get that one out there first. A liner is meant to do a certain job and is meant to be put on a certain way, rolled on, not pulled and stretched on, because then it cannot perform the job that it was meant to do. The same as a sleeve. Put a sleeve on. If you get a hole in it, it loses its ability to do its job. I want to make sure you understand that. I want to make sure you hear me, because later on down in the show, remember, we're covering the pros and the cons of cutting liners. But I think before we get any further and start trying to dissect why you shouldn't, or if you should, you need to understand, what do they do? Sleeves and liners. The next thing we need to understand is the prosthetic socket. Your socket, what does it do, and what is its role in this relationship with your liner? Well, let's talk about that. The prosthetic socket joins your residual limb to the prosthesis and fulfills an important function. It provides a secure connection and assures the proper fit of your prosthesis. In order to achieve these objectives, the prosthetic socket, depending on the shape and condition of the residual limb, and tailored to the respective, um, uh, we do something called the mobility grade, but we're not going to get into that. Depending on that, each individual patient is different. So when we start looking at our sockets, our liners, and our sleeves, they all have specific jobs. And depending on the shape of the limb, depending on the type of liner you have, depending on the type of sleeve you have, it's going to determine if all these things are going to work cohesively together to keep you secure and comfortable in your prosthetic device as you move around. The socket is the load bearing component of the prosthesis, meaning all of your weight, when you put it into your socket, all your weight is supported by that socket. Okay. And that holds the residual limb. Okay. With the liner acting as a suspension system, connecting those things, those components together, the prosthesis components, connecting everything together. And it is typically made of some type of rigid component, carbon fiber typically. And then they laminate it. So that's your socket, and that's what your socket typically does. Your socket um, is so important. Your prosthetist or your CPO will inform you about the right combination of socket design and other components. Okay. Let's talk about the forces that are going to be put on your leg, your liners, and your prosthetic socket. There's all type of various forces that are going to come into play when you stand and you start moving in a prosthetic device. All of these are done in split seconds, man. As you're walking, your leg is going through a lot of different pressures and forces are placed upon it. We're looking at impact movement, which results from the heel striking the ground, the soft liner material, and it acts as a shock absorber in the prosthesis or the prosthetic foot. pulling movements. So as you walk through so when you're talking about gait, you step, you strike with your heel as you roll over and your foot comes off the ground to take the next step. You then move into what's called pulling movement or swing. Okay. At that point in time, the only thing that is keeping your leg from falling off is what? Your liner or your sleeve. If you're wearing both your liner and your sleeve, plus if you're wearing a pin system, those things are what's keeping you connected to that foot so it doesn't fall off. With the right liner material, okay, and a suitable suspension system, the pull movement can be controlled. Now, knowing what that does, the pull movement, your leg is going through swing phase, all those things are hanging onto your leg to keep that leg on so it doesn't slip off and fall off. That's how they're designed. There's one more that's called rotation movement. And we get into that, or we'll say it occurs during the stance phase with uh, the help of special suspension systems and through the shape of the socket. Uh, rotational movements can be controlled also. What's helping? Any type of sleeve that you're wearing, a pin, and the most important thing, your liner. The thing that is connecting your skin hold is connected, grabbing your skin, hanging on for dear life, and that's what's got you connected inside of that socket. So when we look at these different forces, as you do something that you don't even really think about, walking, moving, running, jogging, sitting down, getting up, going to the grocery store, cutting your grass, all these different things we don't even really think about. And we don't really think about this process of how your liner is working. Now, let's throw some other stuff into this. You're up, you're cutting your grass, you're jogging, you're out in the sun, it's hot. What is the most common thing that happens to amputees during this process? Sweating. Sweating is probably the worst thing that can happen to an amputee when they start to sweat. When you start to sweat, your liner gets compromised. Why? Because it loses its grip. It loses the ability to hang on to you during that pull movement, during that rotational movement, during impact movement. You know when your leg starts to fart because you got air and sweat and moisture inside the liner, and your leg starts to piston. Now I want you to think of something. You have a liner designed a certain way. If you've looked at most liners, liners come and the practitioner brings you in and he measures your leg. And this liner is up way above your knee, easily 6 to 8 inches above your knee. And then at some point in time, you or the practitioner cuts the liner down to where you've only got about an inch or two above your knee, a moving joint. What do you think is going to happen with the liner now, whose job is to connect you to this socket? What do you think is going to happen when you get up and start moving? You start sweating. You start doing all the different things that you do in a day. What do you think is going to happen? The liner was designed as is. So when they send you that liner, that shape of that liner, the length of that liner is designed for a specific purpose. Once you cut and trim a liner, you have compromised the integrity of the liner. That liner will now, it might still function and do all the things it's meant to do, and then it may not. Imagine this. Your car comes with 4 brake pads. You decide, nah, man, that's too much weight. I only want 2 brake pads. I'm going to take those other 2 brake pads off. I don't need 4 brake pads. And you're driving down the street and you hit a high speed. Do you think the car is going to stop the way the manufacturer designed it? Or do you think you might have a little trouble bringing your car to a stop and not crashing into something? That's the question. When we look at the pros and cons of cutting a liner and cutting liners, we're now affecting the integrity of the liner. It's the same thing. I've had patients do this. We design a patient a socket, a below the knee guy. I show up at his house. He's telling me his 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 socket doesn't fit and it don't work anymore. So most of the sockets that we have, they have the little shape for your knee to go into, which is a little, you know, under that little cut in it where your knee sits in there. Well, he decided he didn't want that. That bugged him. He didn't like having those things come up along the side of his knee. So he cut it straight across to where there was no wings, as we call them, that supported your lateral movement. He cut those off, cut everything straight across, put his prosthetic on and fell. Why do you think he fell? He compromised the integrity of the socket. So the socket could no longer do its job, which is hold him stable laterally in his socket. And he was telling us, oh, man, the socket doesn't work anymore. When I saw it, I was like, what did you do to it? He goes, well, I cut those things because they bug me. Defective socket now. So what do you think happens when you cut your liners? I'm just saying, I'm not telling you yay or nay. And if you're a practitioner out there, I don't want you getting huffy with me. And I don't want you telling me or calling my show saying I'm giving bad advice. But I think most of these product designers design that specific product the way it's designed to be left that way. You start trimming and cutting. I don't care who you are going to affect the ability of that product to do its job. That's just the only way to put it. Whether you like it or not, that's my opinion. And I think cutting liners is probably one of the worst things you can do to your liner. It's going to affect you in numerous ways as you try to go about your life wearing your prosthetic device. Everything is designed with a specific purpose. Everything has a specific job. You put them all together, they all come together and perform one thing, which is keeping you secure and comfortable in your socket, helping you move, helping you run, helping you jog, helping you stand, sit, work on your motorcycle. Those things are all meant to be in a certain configuration. Once you start changing one aspect of any of those devices, it's going to affect you and it's not going to be the same. So, whether your practitioner does it or whether you do it, I want you to think about the pros and cons of cutting liners. That's all this show is meant to do, is to make you think about that liner has a specific job to do. If you cut it, you compromise it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you say. I run in my liners. I'm an athlete. I go out and I do Spartans. I'll tell you right now, I got a new liner from one of the companies that was sponsoring me and sending me some stuff. And when they sent me the liner, it was too short. It was actually probably about 4 to 5 inches too short. It didn't come up as high on my leg. A great liner, man. Oh my goodness, this thing is awesome. It's cushy. It's great. But it was about 2 to 3 inches above my knee. So what happened when I started using the liner and I was in the gym and I started running and I started getting sweaty? The liner lost grip. So my foot was turning. I felt like I was slopping around in it. I felt like I was off balance. And I was like, well, that ain't gonna work. I love the liner, but it was too low. When I have my liners nice and long, they have more grip of my leg and I feel more secure. Even when I'm working out, I feel like I'm more connected to my prosthetic device. When I'm in doing a Spartan race and I'm jumping over 8, 6, and 11 feet walls, crawling on under barbed wire for God knows how long, my leg does not feel like it's going to slip off. But if I compromise my liner and lose the integrity of grip and that suspension and that support I'm probably going to feel like my liner wants to fall. I'm going to feel like my prosthesis wants to fall off. So I'm not telling you yay or nay. I'm not saying it's, your practitioner's a bad guy. I'm not saying that. What I do say to my patients is have more control over that situation. Wow, I see all these people over here on YouTube. Hey guys, I'm sorry, I was talking about the show. But hello, everybody. Um, but yeah, think about it, guys. That's all I'm asking you to do is I hear a lot of problems with people with cut liners, and we just went over what the function of a liner is meant to do, how it works with your socket, how it works with the suspension system, whether pin or suction, the forces that are put on your leg. Um, and if you compromise it by cutting it, you're going to have a problem. There's a couple times where I see people need to cut liners. One is when someone's severely overweight and their legs are really big at the top, and the liner is going to affect them. I understand when people do cut those. I get that. But they also need to understand with that liner being cut, it's going to naturally want to it's going to want to curl downwards. It's going to want to roll downwards. Why? Because it's been compromised. It's been cut. So there's a lot of things that happen to your liners when we cut them and we compromise them. It's the same thing with anything that you're wearing as far as your prosthetic goes. If you start sanding and grinding on your socket, you're going to compromise that socket and you might have to end up getting a new socket remade. It's with anything that you wear prosthetic wise, from the foot shell to the socket to the actual carbon fiber foot. If you start to do your MacGyver to it, uh, modifying it, you're going to affect this ability to do its job. So that's all I wanted to say with this show tonight, guys. I love you all, but think about the things that you're doing when you're wearing your devices and you're wearing all these products. Um, my advice as an amputee to you, that somebody who's very active and runs and is just a madman out there, keep those liners long as you can. Yes, I know it doesn't look cool under pants, but I'd much rather keep my foot on when it's hot than to be walking down the street and have my foot fall off, or to be walking and feel unstable because I don't have the proper grip from my liner on my leg. So that's all I'm asking, and that's all I'm saying. I'm presenting the information to you. You make your decisions, okay? I'm just a messenger, guys. I'm just a messenger. So think about that, man. That's what the show is all about, is to make you think and to make you go, So when you're out there, think about cutting your liners, think about the things that you do with your socket, your foot shells and all those different things. I love all you guys. I appreciate all the support. I hope you guys will tune in more, and I hope you guys will start coming over to YouTube. I see quite a few people over here today. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Amp Life Talk Radio show on YouTube. Guys on Facebook, please slowly, gradually move yourselves over to the new YouTube channel. And the only reason I'm saying that is because there's going to be some really, really cool things going down on the YouTube channel. I'm not going to be on Facebook every time that I do a show, but I will be on YouTube every single time that I do a show. Again, think about it. Weigh the pros and cons of cutting your liners. That's all I'm asking you to do. Weigh the pros and cons of cutting liners, trimming sockets, sanding on your sockets. Weigh the pros and cons of modifying anything that has to do with your prosthetic device. Because once you do, I think you're going to affect its ability to do its job. That's all I'm asking, and that's all I'm saying. I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in to Amp Life Talk Radio, a show for amputees and those affected by limb loss. Hey guys, if you have a support group out there and you need my help, reach out to me. I'll give your support group a shout out. Always remember, let me know where you're from when you log in, or you get in the chat room and you drop a hello. Let me know where you're from, because I see a lot of people, Columbus, Ohio. I saw, man, where else did I see over here? I know my man Mark is from Hayward, but I saw Modesto, California. I see a lot of different people. I will respond to your comments when I get off the show. it's hard for me to read everything and keep the show moving. But I appreciate all the support. Try and get the Amp Life Talk Radio Facebook page. I would appreciate the likes over there. We want to try and move up to that 1,000 likes. Get us to 1K this year, guys, so that we can really spread this word of the things we're doing. I have some exciting things that are going on, support groups, limb loss awareness events. If you're in the Central Valley area, please do reach out to me, because I'd like to include you with some of the things I'm going to be doing. Guys, I can't express it enough. I do appreciate all your support, and I appreciate everyone listening to the show. Be ready for the new changes. I hope that you will love them. And I have not forgot a single one of you guys for all the coffee mugs and stuff like that. I have some things that I'm working on. And when I do those, I'm trying to get my budget together so that when I do get things up to speed, we're going to be giving away some t-shirts, and we're going to be giving away the coffee mugs. So you guys will get your coffee mugs. I'm looking at redesigning it and making it better to where we are thinking about either a coffee mug or a tumbler. And what I don't want to do is send the people that have said to me they want a coffee mug, and then you see a tumbler and you're going to go, man, wait a minute, I want one of those tumblers. So I'm trying to hang on to it for a little bit longer and decide if I'm going to stick with a coffee mug or go to a tumbler. If I do go to a tumbler, everyone that was promised a coffee mug, you'll get the tumbler. Heck, you might even get both, because I'm going to be trying to get rid of them. And then we will be doing some t-shirts. So I appreciate everybody's support. I'm trying to grow this thing and make it something big. Check us out, ampnationmagazine.com and amplifetalkradio.com. Again, people, I really, really, really appreciate your support. You guys have a wonderful, blessed night, and let's make 2020 an awesome, awesome year. Thanks again. I'm your host, Sean Harrison, and this is Amp Life Talk Radio.
You are listening to Sean Harrison on Amp Life Talk Radio, a place for amputees and those dealing with limb loss. The views expressed on the show by the host, co-hosts, and guests are their own. Always seek medical advice from a licensed medical professional.